It was a movie that was made on late Dr. Oppenheimer, who was who invented the nuclear bomb. I know everybody knows about that, right? And then later on, what happened to him, and how at the end of the life he was kind of driven down by the political establishment, suspecting him to be a communist and all that. Actually, he felt very guilty. He made the bomb, and he said he had the blood on his hands. So he wanted to ban those weapons. That's why he was doing that. One moment. Let me switch on the light here. I'll be with you in a second. There was an interview with the author who wrote the book um, Prometheus, based on which uh, this movie was made. So I saw the interview by that author. By the way, that uh, book got a prestigious award too. So he was very eloquent about Oppenheimer, what happened, and all that. I have you guys heard about Oppenheimer and the movie? Christopher Nolan seems excellent direction. So I was very tempted to go and see it, but it's a 3 hour movie, and it starts hard times for us here, 6:45, and then later on in the 10:45, something like that. Hi, Janet. Welcome. Okay. So I was beginning with that movie Oppenheimer. I was very interested in that movie. I know about him because he was very interested in metaphysics of ancient times, and his name comes up all the time. And he quoted Bhagavad Gita when he saw the real explosion of the mushroom of cloud of the nuclear bomb when we went off, first time. And then he was very sad after that. He didn't know the power would be so much more, and people will be really destroyed by that. The author was also talking about the same thing that's happening now with the AI being such a uh, probably destructive, constructive weapon, like on humanity. So that was interesting too. You know. Anyway, yesterday I was talking about this inner dimension in every human being. Once we identify that, then we are kind of relieved from the three different things, like our fear about not existing anymore. That means fear of death, and fear of not knowing something that we should have known. That is fear of the ignorance, and fear of sorrow. Right? These three things are resolved once we understand this deeper inner self. That's what we were talking about yesterday. Um, anyway, how are you, Dr. Sharon?
Hey, Dr. Mel. I'm doing okay. How
Yeah,
are you?
I'm pretty good, pretty good. So,
Good, good, good.
so anything interests you in these topics for you?
Um, yes, for me, I'm always interested in anything that's gonna help me um, get
Burnout?
to equilibrium and stay,
Yeah,
you know, that way.
yeah,
Because it's usually a fight to maintain that,
yeah,
that balance.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I absolutely relate with you because I was finding for that inner resilience and years of understanding and training and learning. Then I began to practice what I was reading about, and then it was not about studying and knowledge and all that. It was more about realizing it in our daily practice. That's why in my wellness club I practice things with my people whoever come there. I think Janet commented about the inner resilience that she got when we talked about it, when I was talking about it, and then she kind of practiced. Right, Janet? You were saying that in your endorsement of me. So I thought that was good. So could you elaborate on that, Janet, if you remember?
Yeah, hopefully I say it correctly. And hi, Dr. Sharon. Hi, Akia. So nice to see you all again. Dr. Rao talks about being in the present. We had requests, and I don't know why, but my coworkers had requested some information on resiliency, and this was during the pandemic. Because I think it's been like 2 years, Dr. Rao, but
Yeah.
the information he gave was so valuable in that you need to stay in the present. That's the best way I can sum it up. Don't um, allow everything you have to do, which is a lot.
Yeah.
Focus on your task and stay in the present. Did I do it? Hopefully, I mean that's my takeaway. Hopefully, I'm stating it correctly. But to kind of stay in the presence, because you can get in a whirlwind. Like there's so much to do. One person is so complex, and there's so much to do with one life. But the problem the nurses had, and they had to be in multiple directions. And then there was the horrible outcome the patient would have that would make them feel devastated and hopeless. So sharing that, staying in the present was really helpful for some of them because they really didn't have any support that was like focused on something they could implement. It was more like general, like, rest and do this and that, but not, okay, right now, you stay in the present and only do what you can and focus on doing that very, very well. And then you'll see that you feel in control and not out of control and overwhelmed. And
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Yeah, Janet. Yeah, I think that's a very good takeaway. There was another instance I tell people to illustrate what I mean. Um, See, one of my sister's daughter, she was 50 years old. My daughter is now, my sister is now 80 some, right? Her daughter was at 50 years of age. She had a sudden heart failure and she died. And she had a 18-year-old daughter. She died in the arms of that 18-year-old. So she was devastated, obviously, and uh, I had to bring both them along because my sister is very close to me. We almost talk every day. For years we have been talking, right? And I know how devastated she was. Um, then I kind of took that 18-year-old also, and then we talked a little bit. But I taught her something very simple. This is a affirmation I used to use in a longer format, but I kind of made it very simple for her. Said, you remember this particular sentence? This has got five components. The number one is I'm going to stand on the mantle of presence. That means I'm going to be in the present, and then I will give with a smile. Number two is give, and that too with a smile. Number three. And the fourth one is I will not overthink. And fifth one is I will not expect anything from anybody. So I told her to repeat this early in the morning and also before going to bed so that she will have this in her mind all the time. She did that, but the only thing that really, she said that really she took away was the first thing of being in the present. And then that kid has completed her master's in cybernetics now. This has happened 4 or 5 years ago, and now she is very successful. She does remember her, her mom and miss her. That is there, but that continuous cyclical thinking, like she was like a post-traumatic stress. She was remembering that my mom's dying in her arms, froth around her mouth. That really devastated her. But now she is not into that cyclical thought. She is always in the present. That is the one she was doing all the time. And then her grief was much better tolerated, and she came out of it because she had so many achievements after that. So instead of going into depression and feeling like you lost something and you should never be, another thing I told her was, your mom would like you to continue your life, do the things that you would like to do, and enjoy your life. So that kind of thing would be better for you. Anyway, she also said the same thing. She caught that present moment thing I talked about. I do all the time because I kind of landed up in this present moment awareness years ago. So for me, everything that is happening right now, that is the life, and I get completely attend to it. In my office, I put Dr. Sharon a simple thing for my all the staff and also my colleagues, the other doctors and nurses, other people, attention to every action. Whatever we do, suppose we receive a patient, we greet a patient, we kind of talk to him, give them a smile or whatever, and then bring him to the room and then tell him everything that we are doing. Each task that we do, pay complete attention. That is the only thing I kind of wrote there and made them understand what it is and how to do that. So, I mean, there are other things that I teach them: deep breathing, exercise, and also letting things go. Being present doesn't mean just only physically, but also in your mind, letting things go. There are other things that I teach them in the night, what they should do, in the morning, what they should do, and all that. But that one particular thing, inner resilience, is nurtured by really not getting the negatives from the past operating us, and also projecting negativity in our thinking to the future. But really counting the blessings, like what they used to say, like that, you kind of enjoy what you have, you appreciate, and then go from there. And whatever comes our way, we can handle it like that. So, does that make sense, Dr. Sharon, being in the present?
Sorry. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. It really does help. And for me too, I've dealt with grief. I think I'm still dealing with it. My dad passed away actually July 31st. It's gonna make 3 years. But I mean, I don't. I mean, I don't. I guess get down as much, but I still do, and especially in times and moments that I remember him.
Yeah.
So but I being in the moment does help, and one of the things that has helped me actually is meditation, and I started. I used to meditate, but then I really went back to it probably September, October 2020, like right in the middle of the pandemic, because it just helped me to remain present and just to center myself and help at that time with all the craziness that was going on with the pandemic and the grief of losing him, and then between then and now I actually lost several family members. So
Yeah.
it's been like one trying time in my life. Yeah. Plus, just work alone and being burnt out from medicine. So
Yeah.
definitely being present in the moment helps. Meditation has helped me to. I think the next piece I need to add would be yoga. I work out, so that does help.
Yeah.
But I think things that are calming to the mind and help with mindfulness would definitely help.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Let me share my experience with the meditation, where I was and what is happening now. Um, I was doing this episodic meditation where you sit down and then calm your mind, focus on the breath, and do all that, right? That used to be like a whack-a-mole. You get stressed, and then when the thoughts are too much in your mind, too much brain fog and all that, then I used to sit down and focus on my breath and the deep breath, being in the whatever mantra, whatever that was there, right? That was very brief. Later on, I was introduced to this meditative awareness. So once you are there, I didn't have to do that episodic um, meditation episodes, because mind was by itself silent unless I'm trying to use it. This may sound too much, but it's not. If I could do it, anybody can do it. What it is if you stop and then think about it, you are aware of your thoughts. That means thoughts are happening in your awareness. Basically, we are aware human beings or conscious human beings, right? That is what awareness I'm talking about. When you get up in the morning, you are awake and you are aware of everything around you. But we simply go beyond that awareness into that stream of thought. One thought comes and then another thought. Immediately we kind of get onto our agenda, what is going to happen, and all that. And then get caught in that network of thought through the day, and that is the one which is difficult for us to handle because there are so many things coming at us, right? Versus if you are really aware, then you are aware of this streaming of thought, network of thought, continuous thoughts going on. You are aware. You are not going to give them continuity unless you want to. So you kind of becoming a witness of the thoughts. That witnessing consciousness, that is called the awareness, I call it. You are in that awareness. You take a, like I'm in this room, I'm talking about with some friends. After this is done, I don't have to retain all this. I don't have to munch on it, think on it, and all that. I may think on some important things, but the rest of them, I kind of drop them. That's what happens once you cultivate bringing the awareness in front of your thought. So, this I do in the morning. I always tell people get up in the morning, don't look at the devices, put them away for half an hour. But that half an hour, don't indulge in any thoughtful activity like remembering yesterday or projecting tomorrow, none of that. What you want to do is, am I aware of what kind of weather I'm looking at? Am I aware of the living things around me? So that kind of being in the awareness, I practice in the wellness club of mine in the morning, where I say, okay, this 1 hour, this is an exercise in awareness. Be here and now with me. Deep breathe and do the body exercises both sides. These three principles I tell them. But every so often I come back and say, be here and now. Deep breathe. And also, when you are breathing, you are just aware of the breath. So that kind of gives you ability to be aware and to be here and now. And that builds up like a parasympathetic nervous system stimulation. Because of the deep breath, you develop the resilience of non-reactivity in your system. And also all the sympathetic overload with the reactions, with the negativity, with the peers and all those things, when they accumulate, this deep breath annihilates them. So it kind of attacks that. So it kind of balances that. So morning is very important, because the moment we wake up, we get into the stream of thought, we will continue that. And then so many stimuli come at us because of the information overload, and that goes on civilizing itself, never give a chance for you to be an awareness. For me, it has reversed from being all thoughtful or continuous thinking. Now it is all awareness and thinking when needed, when I wanted. That can be done. It's always a question of realizing this is a regular thing. We don't want to get in the car of a cyclical thought. We want to be conscious thought. We want to think consciously. So these two words, conscious thought, not cyclical thought, that made a difference. And then putting the awareness in front of the thought movement. This is a problem for all modern people, because that French philosopher Rene Descartes, he said, he's a very good man. He wanted to establish his existence. That's why he said, all gone, I'm thinking that is there. So I think, therefore I am. But he should have gone a step further. I am conscious, therefore I am. So this conscious is that awareness I'm talking about. This conscious is it's not there. We're not aware. We don't have any life, right? So thoughts happening in the awareness, that is something you have to discover for yourself, not just by word, but just check it out. Check it out and see. Slow the thought. be in the thought, then you see you are aware of the thought. That means the one that is everywhere is the witness, that is the awareness. So bring that awareness to the front. See, there's so much attack on that because of the information overload that we are suffering in this information age. We should be using the information for our betterment, for our benefit, not overwhelming us and causing the molecular reactions and also psychological reactions and all that neurological reactions are, we don't know how to handle it. This people of ancient yoga and other facility martial arts, those people have a wonderful idea about the awareness, and they put that awareness in front of the thoughts, and they were better effective thinkers because they were putting all the energy into that particular thinking, not anything else. So this is something very simple in the work. Work is not the problem, amount of work is not the problem, but it is the extraneous thought that happen with each activity. If you really focus, if you are in the flow, then you don't have any energy wasted in terms of going that way and this way. Very few people understand flow status, but you can be flow state whenever you are working, then you enjoy the work, and also you don't spend any negative energy depleting from you. So I hope that makes sense. Any comments on that? Anybody?
I do. Oh, yes, that does make sense. So, um, there were some nurses that would have that mindset of the complaint.
Yeah,
But when you're doing that complaining, it's draining you.
yeah,
And I remember one time things happened, in the hospital. I had a ventilator just shut off. It was in the red cord, there was power, it just went out. And the last thing I remember was my friend's father who was on that machine. My friend said, "Take care of my dad." And then when the ventilator went out, I panicked and freaked out. I didn't even, my friend had grabbed the amber bag because I was in such a state of shock. But of course, we quickly got the respiratory came in and, hooked the new ventilator and all that. But that just goes to show you I wasn't present. My mind was on what my friend had said. Yeah. And I'm thinking, her dad. And my coworker jumped in with the ambu, which is what you're supposed to do. And of course, it was just a split second, but I should have been the one with the bag instead of the coworker, because I was so busy thinking about the fact that her father, this happened to, and I didn't hold up on my bargain to watch over her dad, Yeah. So being present mentally as well as physically is so important, and that's what my takeaway from that.
That is the crucial point I was talking about, Janet. That the reaction of your mind in a panic or in a really you're afraid, right? What's going on? What is happening to him? So that emotional reaction can be tamed down the line if you really understand the reaction, where it came from and how you reacted. It's not a bad thing you reacted, but the thing is, there's a network forms the reaction, neurological reaction, that is formed by our training, by our concerns, by our conscience, so many things. Some people may be pretty blunt and they don't care, but the people who care really panic and all that, right? How you sublimate them or how you make them much less is by really reviewing these reactions that same night you go home, and then kind of not reviewing in the sense that I did something wrong. No, it's kind of let me understand how my system has reacted, and then you will have better luck next time because you are already prepared for that kind of reaction. This happened quite often for us. I was a physician for a long time. I was in New York. I was in emergency room, and my shift was morning 7 to evening, I think 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, something like that. 3 o'clock, 7 to 3. So they told me I have to take some evening shifts. I said I'm fine. But in night times, I said, if you put me night time, I'm gone because my routines and everything is in the morning. But also, I kind of like the CC one where all the coats are brought in, all the serious cases are brought in, and we have a corner where we brought in all the stretchers. Triage nurse does it. She identifies that somebody is really needed. They rush to the corner. Nothing will be there except somebody else is going through the next bed like that. So the whole CC1 is like a 8 bed capacity, but it's all, it's all open. Janet, Dr. Shari, you know what I'm talking about. So
Yes, sir.
yeah, so the curtains are pulled apart, and so sometimes when I came in, there were three coats waiting for me. One is a respiratory arrest, and there is somebody intubated for some reason, somebody is in cardiac arrest and all that, right? And I had to revive them. I was the only doctor because the nighttime people are gone. So only I am there, I have to do that. And I used to stand in the center and focus on each team. But I'm very familiar with the teams, and teams also know three people will be there. One will be ambu, and one will be doing the chest compressions, and also if you need any charges, he will do that. And also somebody maintains the record and give the medications and all that. So everybody knows their job because I have that system there. But my job is to pay attention to each monitor and then give appropriate drugs. What helped me was the morning practice that I did made me centered, made me with the situation. I'm not concerned about myself. I'm concerned about the patient and what is going on, what I should be doing. What is my say? That's where attention to every action came in. So I was able to clearly see what was going on with each patient and determine what needs to be done. And we do check the pulse and all that, give the medication, give this charge, whatever we do, we tell them we do, they do that. But I've noticed that I was able to do mainly because I came in with a fresh mind that is settled down and that's not reacting to external events in a negative way. I'm responding to a situation, but I'm not emotionally reacting that way. So then I developed on that system. And what I found was in the morning when I got up, I was always reading something elevated thought. That's one thing. So news, New York, there was so much bad news that was going on at the time, right? But I was not paying attention to that at the time. And I was doing deep breathing through my exercises, through my breathing exercise and all that. And all that made my mind to be here and now, to be non-reactive but responsive. Then I developed a system. How can you be non-reactive emotionally in a way and then responding to the task anyway, because we need to deliver our duties, right? So we have to do that kind of stability from being really irate or really complaining that I'm the own doctor, so many people need attention. None of that. That's all waste of energy, right? That helped me a lot. This is my personal experience. That's what I talk about with doctors who are burning out or nurses who are burning out. Get up in the morning, develop this inner resilience within you by deep breathing and focusing on one thought and going beyond that thought. Then you'll be more responsive to whatever you do, not reactive. Nurses, it used to happen in the clinic because some nurses they do the good job all the time. Sometimes they may miss. So one guy, his blood draw went wrong, and then he was very worried. And then he came into my office right away, and then he showed me, see your doctor, you see your nurses, what she did to me. This quality of me not reacting, responding helped me in those situations any number of times. So if I go and yell at my nurse just because I'm her boss, I will lose my relationship with the nurse, right? But if I don't talk anything, it's a private practice, the patient will be unhappy. So I had to praise both of them. So I used to tell them, okay, well, let's just first take care of your arm, what is happening, and I explained to him and what can happen sometime. And then I told him what he should do, and then he should call me if he has problems and all that. And then I told him I will talk to my nurse. I will ask her what happened, and then we are sorry this happened to you, and I apologize on my behalf of my nurse and all. And he was happy with that. And then I went back, and then she was doing something. I told her, okay, after you're done, let's talk a little bit about this patient. And she comes, and then she said, what happened? I didn't tell her that he complained to me. She told me what happened was she was not doing very well. Her kids were sick or something, and that's why she was kind of lost in her thought. So she made a decision, but then she apologized to him. She bandaged and everything, but still he was unhappy, right? Then I told her, okay, we cannot do this. One patient walks out is like a seven patients walking out for statistics, right? But then I told her about this deep breathing and calming herself down and all that. That helped her with other things also, with her kids and other things. But that way, I kind of take it like a nurturing my colleagues, nurturing my staff, and that kind of attitude helped me a lot because they felt like he not only gives us salary, but he also gives us this emotional nurturance. And that was a big deal about our relationship. Make sense, Dr. Shah?
Yes, that definitely does make sense.
Yeah.
That you do have to, you know, kind of balance relationship between, staff and patients. I have to do that all the time.
Yeah.
So I understand that very well.
Yeah. I mean, this morning exercise I was talking about, that is something you start the day like that. And then what you do is every hour, you just do this deep breathing for a minute. And with that minute that is tied to your inner calmness, resilience, you get back to it because you practice for about an hour in the morning. That becomes, it is not lost till evening. It is kind of revived right off because we do so much EMR, so many consultations, so many, discussions with insurance companies, and we do so much work, right? So our mind can get overburdened with all the information that we need to do. Sometimes they are not plain and respectful. They may be yelling at us. Lots of the insurance companies and all. So that is there too. And so empty that every 1 hour, I kind of preach about 1 minute of PMBB, present moment breathing break. Associate that with coming back to the present, and then dump all that information for that hour right there. you know and at the end of the day, after you have worked and gone home, take a few minutes and review all these reactions, and then sleep on an empty mind or a positive mind if possible. And as you continue to do this, this won't happen in a day or two days or 1 month, 2 months. But if you continue to do that, then you are neurologically so stable within, and you can work with that. And that shows much deeper things that are in you. So you're kind of taking not like a looking inward with repression or regret or none of that. It's kind of evaluating what has happened, and then you kind of be more non-reactive but responsive adequately to the job in front of us. I think that's what is happening for doctors and nurses is we react so much, and also there is so much fear. What will happen to my license? What has happened to my credentialing? And all those things are there, right? So a lot of people may not understand, but that is the thing. Oh, I have student loans. I have so much I have to pay. All those things play in the back too. So because I know how that feels, I can understand them and I can direct them towards that. It's a basically self master. Put it simply, self mastery without being attached to a religion or really following some guru or something. No, we need to have a self inquiry process, and we need to gain self knowledge from the self inquiry process. And the result is this inner resilience, inner stability. So I always talk about balance within, bringing you back to work and family life, not the other way around. Everybody talks about, oh, how to bring the work balance life. No, once you are balanced, work and life will be the same, and then you will be operating with that sense of real stability within ourselves. Does it make sense, or is that too much for anybody? Alka, you have anything to say? Alka runs a nursing home, that's why.
Yeah, for me, it makes sense, Dr. Rao. It definitely does. And the goal is to like just put um, things into place and practice and just
Yeah.
continue to do it every day so that it actually really becomes a habit.
Yeah.
And then that habit would translate into just a better life,
Yeah.
less stress, less burnout, more happiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine is more like related with positive psychology that has emerged. Before psychiatry is about organic illnesses, we're going to treat people who are really psychiatrically sick and all that. But lately, they have also jumped on the bandwagon of how can we make people psychologically um, bring out the positive that they already have, but they are not aware of it. You know, so the therapy and all of that, somebody sitting out there saying you should be like this and all that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how can we look at ourselves without judging or without really stamping a diagnosis on us, but understand the mind and its operations and inner energies. Once you understand them, then you will be in control. Your traits of characters and all those will be much more changed. One of the biggest thing about yoga people don't understand is it is changing your mindset by yourself. Okay, it's like kind of reshaping your inner thoughts and everything just by understanding the structure of mind and how it can be changed with all the practices of breathing, asanas, and meditation, mindfulness. All those things are explained there. See, the problem of modern life is we run for outward things a lot, but we don't really realize we have the diamond within us. So that is my secret. Why I am kind of even in the middle of so many suffering, I can be stable mainly because this was really brought to the fore by the ancients. They were big on inner consciousness and its effects, whereas modern science is about external things and conquering them and all. But human beings are not just happy with the things and people outside. They got to have a balance within. And that's where I kind of bring the ancient wisdom. But I'm a physician. I understand the science, and I very passionately follow all the scientific findings like a microbiome or nutrigenetics or genome itself. So I follow them very. I've been studying them for years. So even nuclear medicine, those things also I take interest in. Even though it's not my, I don't have to be expertise, but I can be aware of what's going on in the field, and I can use it for my patients, right? So combination of both external scientific findings and then inner knowledge coming from ancient wisdom, that is working for me. So Janet, what do you think about that combination?
I'm sorry, Dr. Rao.
Yeah.
You, yes, you had mentioned about the combination of the yoga practice with regards to keeping your mind
Yeah.
in control of your thoughts. That's what I was thinking about because I'm exercising too. Since I'm out of breath, but I wanted to kind of elaborate on or ask a question about a comment and a question. Now, does complaining you know how sometimes it's busy and people say, oh, this is so much, this is so much.
Mm.
Does that, and that's a negative emotion, does that cause you to release some type of stress and protect you from something that you're afraid of? And how can you encourage others? Like you encouraged that nurse when you were saying
Yeah,
you got her to admit that she was having some problem, you know, with her child
yeah,
when she did the blood draw or whatever with the patient and it didn't go well.
yeah.
Because sometimes those things can, you know, be real painful and, you know, we don't want to do stuff like that. But how can like a peer encourage a coworker that is complaining? And I also am curious to know, is complaining like some protective serotonin release or dopamine release?
No.
I don't know. Is it because people do it all the time, and I'm thinking it has to serve some purpose.
Yeah, yeah. I see the complaining is really a desperation that they were misused or they were not paid enough or they were given overwork. Number of things will be there, and there is a exploitative element there for the bosses when they allow too much work and all that. Then they say, "I'm supposed to only do this hour." And so, how is your attitude towards the work that it comes down to? If you really think, okay, I'm here, but what happens with the hospitalists, which I was when I going to the hospitals? We were supposed to be relieved by 6 o'clock because last 1 hour we were not supposed to take any new admissions. But then suddenly, emergency room calls typically either 1, 2, 3 admissions they give you, because they are there. They want to get rid of them from their hands, so they want. It's like a dump they call it, right? And then. If you complain and if you say this is really bad, then they go to the administration and all of that. That is there. But other thing is, if something happens to the patient, then they say, oh, Dr. K was called at this time and he took a lot of time. He didn't even come and see the patient. That kind of thing. If something happens with the hospital, all those names come and all that. So the best thing would be just go and see the patient and see how the patient condition is, and then if you need to do something emergently, you can do them, and then to tell the patient, I'm on the way out, or I'm going to take this information to the person coming in. I will sign out. That's kind of a responsive thing, responsible thing, right? So instead of complaining about something, look at what is happening. And if it is important, do that. By complaining, you are losing the energy. And if you want to take that as an issue with the management, note down all the facts, take it to them, and have a constructive thing. But most of the time, they take advantage of the people who are depending on their paycheck, or they have to pay their mortgage and all that. So they exploit. That is there too. If you can really afford to change the job, that's one option. Or if you can talk to the management, that's one option. You can give a written report of what was happening, what is not fair. But at the time when it is presented, if you have to do it to help somebody, or by your complaining, the other person is not getting, and you yourself making these neurological reactions I'm talking about, that it is not good for you. Even if you are angry and then you are shouting at people, that I see lots of time people shout at other people thinking I will relieve my complaint. No, actually that anger is may not do anything to the opposite person, but for you, inner health wise, it's not good for you. So if you remember that, and if you are mature about your work atmosphere, your work responsibility, then take care of the responsible thing. Because one thing helps all the time is, suppose if you are thinking, I am working for this institution, what says, I am building this institution so that the institution will have better quality of whatever they are doing. That kind of dedication and really appreciation of the work as something that you could be proud of helps a lot. In my first stress relief lecture in 2008, I said this. Remember what Kennedy said? Like, don't say what the country did for me, say what I can do for the country. The same thing with the institution, too. you know. And then that is the one attitude, not for other people, but that is an elevated thought. That's the elevator or where you say, I am going to contribute no matter what situations are, and I'm going to save my reactions for better things, and then I will do a constructive thing after the fact. But it's like this is what it is. Again, comes to the present, right? What is in front of you, that is sacred. Do that, and then take the issue later. That would be more that way you don't lose your cool, you don't develop the stress hormones within you, but at the same time you're going to respond to the situation by taking up the authority. But just as complaining to each other and all that, that's really a negativity, unnecessary. And a lot of people do that, but then they don't realize that they are doing this to themselves and to the atmosphere too. How is the negativity bred? When you are talking about negativity all the time, that is going to affect other people and it will going to spread. On the other hand, you are proud of your service that you are providing, and you are very happy about the institution which is providing the service, and you are part of that, and you have meaning and purpose for that, and that makes a lot of. That's how I think.
That's it. That's it, Dr. Rao. Thank you for that. I have often, like, I just ignore it,
Mm.
but then occasionally someone will ask, how can they not be so negative? Because I tend to I've learned, because I've been doing this for like 20 something years, how to not complain because it zaps my energy.
Yeah.
And that one experience early on in my career, when I froze, instead of immediately grabbing the ambu bag, it was not even a second, but the other nurse was doing it for me because she heard the alarm. And I was crying because it was my friend's dad, which was not productive.
Yeah.
So I learned to maintain positivity and know that no matter how bad of a day I'm having, the patient is having the worst day. So that service is the key, because no one wants to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
I mean, you do when you have to, but really, we would love to be healthy. Like, you teach a lot about preventing from going in the hospital.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, when they are there, it's devastating to them.
Yeah.
So we need to make the environment better.
Yeah.
And I noticed that a lot of nurses, especially ones who've been doing it a while, they don't give into that complaint, and they just get busy and do it and work very hard. You mentioned, I heard you talk about that too, working real hard and giving of yourself when you talked about your niece.
Yeah.
So that was real helpful too. That's something that we try to implement in the unit, because sometimes the workload is overwhelming. But then sometimes we'll do a huddle and we regroup. We say, look, we have a lot of tasks. Your assignment, you're going to have help with this. And it's not your patient, but we're instituting a model. If you're caught up right now, these are the tasks that needs to be done. And then we kind of operate on a task basis with the charge nurse, kind of just checking in and making sure everyone's getting their tasks done because of the acuity, but we're adapting to what's happening now. And then once we get the patient stabilized, where we're not hanging blood and pressors and doing adjustments, and we're stable, then we can go back to normal operations. So, being in the moment of what's going on now, not, I'm supposed to only do this, and now I've got to do this. No, right now, the acuity calls for this. So I was listening to that. So I'm going to keep replaying this room because I think I can make a whole presentation on it. Thank you.
Let me expand on that service bit a little bit, Janet, because this is very meaningful for me. I'm not telling for anybody, but I'm going to say my experience. Okay. When we were really brought up as doctors, basically they kind of helped us to build our own ego, and also say, oh, I'm such a good doctor, I'm such a accomplished doctor, or I'm so such subspecialties and all that, right? There's a lot of egoic nurturing that goes on by the system, and also by the workers who what we work, and also the administrators want more money from us, that they also will do that. Uh, Our challenge is how we go back and nullify that egoic development and be a human again, and also appreciate the human beings for what they are, right? Ancient wisdom gave me this knowledge about each person has that spark of life that they call divinity in all of us. We may not be aware of it, or we may not be in touch with it. The whole thing about ancient wisdom is realize that divinity within us and then manifest it, and also realize the divinity in each human being. Aldous Huxley wrote a perennial philosophy. In that, it is there's a unchanging, changeless reality um, beyond the change of what manifestation we see. The change that is there, right, externally, but inwardly it's not going to go. And that is the one which gives us existence and all that. Now, there is a term that I've opened a house based on that. That is mainly, I wanted to remember myself and also want to share with my friends. That's why it's not a religious thing, but it is Sanskrit term. It's called Siva Gnana Jiva Seva. That means Shiva means that spark of divinity. It could be anything, any religion you could be, but still you have the divinity within you. You could call Christhood, you could call Buddhahood, you could call Krishna Tattva. Any religion you will mention that, but that is there. So that's why I kind of don't identify with any religion. I don't need to. Okay, spiritualism, right? So that divinity is in my patient too. If I can remember that when I'm seeing him, I can serve the Lord in him rather than just a human being. See, that kind of attitude develops, then we'll be really serving, we'll be worshiping as we are doing our job. Actually, as healthcare workers, as somebody who deal with somebody who is coming to us in suffering, we had the opportunity to do that. So we'll be grateful for that opportunity. At the same time, we are doing our worship of our Lord. That kind of thing. That's a very nice thing that was there. That's why I brought in a house named on that. Every Wednesday, 7 o'clock, I'm going to do on that and explain that in a non-religious, more of a, there is a lot of science involved too. I will explain that also. Uh, you have to go to Einstein, what he talked about, all those things. We will talk about that. So, if you cannot do that, at least come to be human to human. Then you can relate to the person like he also has a family. He also has this disruption of duty. Somebody is in the hospital, or everybody's routine is disturbed. So all those things we take it, we will have better empathy to the patient for what they are going through rather than our own nonsense. Say we complain on also, but a cancer patient, a person who cannot breathe, how much complaints they have. So once we see that, our complaints really go down. Simply, what do you say about that, Janet?
Perfect. And I like the humility part of the service because a lot of healthcare workers, health medical school, it's really hard. So you do tend to get a big ego, and especially if you're able to land and do well in a specialty. You don't tend to get a big ego. You can get a big ego, and sometimes people do, but the humility and the service is what counteracts that and allows you to carry out your duties. Because I was training, like there's this thing where they don't like brand new nurses in a unit. And this one nurse was kind of like picking on a nurse because she was new and I was oriented nurse and she didn't belong. She was focusing so much on saying something negative about her that the doctor told her to put her patient back in restraints and sedate her. And she didn't do it because she thought she knew better. And the patient ended up not doing well because she didn't follow the order. And that is probably a little bit of not being humble and not, focusing on her task. Because, when a physician tells you something to do, I mean, you really should just do it. You don't have the option to not do it. But sometimes they don't do it because they think they know better, or they may do it later. And really, that's not the hierarchy of healthcare. You know, the doctor can kind of change protocols and stuff, but not someone that's carrying out a task. So I've seen where that can get in the way. So that's very important for people to, for us to remember. You know, for me, you know, as a healthcare worker, to maintain that humility and that service mindset, because I know a lot. You know, I may get access to a lot of information, but I still have a specific role to play. Where there's a hierarchy, you know, where there's a patient, you know, they're ultimately our boss, and you know, we're there to serve them.
Yeah. See, one of the other things I notice, which to some degree more or less, is the trappings that we get. We get a lot of money, we get a lot of value, a lot of respect, and all that, right? But things are changing. People are not respecting as much as before. But also, you have to share with a lot of others. Paramedical people that are also trained very well, therapists or nutritionists, or they also have special training. So, got to work in a multidisciplinary environment rather than I'm the boss, I'm father knows best. That kind of thing doesn't work anymore. Now with AI, lot of information that we give out simply will be available to the patients. So they will be much more informed about the things when they come to the visits and all that. So the better thing would be I was teaching them about, okay, the trappings are good if you like the money, if you like all those things, that's fine. But then once you get this chance in the patient care, appreciation, gratitude, and love that we can experience from the patients by really involving with the patient care and providing them the emotional support also. For that, you need the soft skills, and you need to appreciate there are intangible benefits as healthcare workers that you will get. Suppose you save somebody's life, they will remember you forever. That happens so many times, right? Sometimes some people come into the clinic, I don't even know who they are, but they kind of remember me because that happened to the uncle, something like that. I had so many opportunities where I was made to feel very happy because their reaction. And one of the things that people don't do is they don't really go and establish a relationship with the family, with the patient, as though they are our family. If you can do that one particular thing and really relate the information in a timely manner to them in a truthful way, they will be friends and supporters for you. Even if you have something, they will forgive you because they know you are doing heartfully. That is one thing you got to protect from this information overload, is not to be heartful. Really work through your heart. And all the soft skills I'm talking about are that. You be heartful first, and then nurses are naturally are like that. They are more holistic and more. But then physicians with their specialty of work or so much of knowledge, they tend to be just more intellectual and more of knowledge based. That's all okay. But what is happening to you with the atmosphere, with the administration, with insurance companies, drug companies taking over, is new technologies coming in? What is happening within you? If you base everything on the profession and nothing else, then when the profession is changing, you are getting the hit. That's what is happening to the doctors who are burning out because they wanted to derive everything just by working and being getting all from work. But the work is overloaded and work is too much. There is no emotional assurance for them, and they don't look to their own inner resources, which I'm talking about being aware and using your mind in a safe way, protect it from getting into this neurotic state of continuously thinking. Dr. Sharon,
Thank you.
I would say what she says now.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with with everything that you say. And I just especially with the burnout issue where so many physicians are unhappy, and we're burnout, and I'm not sure um, that there's really anything that's being done that's actually has tangible
Yeah.
results in terms of helping us. Because once we're happy, right, we take care of patients even if we're burnt out. We do,
Yeah,
right?
we do.
But burnout can come to a point where you compromise the care
Mm.
of a patient, because sometimes you just become apathetic, and there's so many things that contribute to that, and I just don't see like a whole lot of anything that's being done to combat that burnout. Now, the hospitals know, all these societies know. When I do my board research, ACOG, American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, have a whole section on, physician burnout, and but I don't this I mean, but what's being done? Like not a whole lot of anything.
Yeah.
And they don't see that translates into patient care.
Yeah.
Right? It does. It really does.
It does.
Yeah, it does. Um, so I don't even know what truly is the solution. I think, and I think it's going to get worse and worse for people who remain in medicine,
Yeah.
because a lot of us are walking away or finding an alternative way of practicing medicine,
Yeah.
or kind of just practice medicine on your own terms. So yeah, we need true, real solutions that's going to help
Yeah.
us, help, and even help our support staff, like the nurses, right?
Yeah.
And everyone else who help us take care, of the patient. So I definitely understand everything that you're saying, and Janet actually hit on a lot of good topics too. And I granted, yes, with Janet, there is a hierarchy of medicine, there is, but I truly appreciate a nurse who can anticipate what my patient need, and even if they'll call me and say, "Hey, Dr. Smith, this patient is," they give me a report and say, "I think that the patient need this, and this," and then I'll agree, or even if I disagree, I'll say exactly why I disagree. So it's not just completely hierarchical um, control.
Yeah.
And we do debrief. And for me, any incident, slight or large, is always a good teachable moment, because we use that teachable moment to improve the care of the patient, educate everyone involved, so something doesn't continue to happen. So I do really appreciate a nurse's input into the care of my patient. This is Dr. Smith.
Yeah, that's why I was saying system will not do to enhance ourselves from within. That's where I really bring in the ancient wisdom. They were like they used to call them Maharaja. That means he's a big king. Why they are big king is they have inner uh, psychological independence of anybody. And that is what I went and studied, how they become so psychologically independent, and also has this tremendous nurturing capacity of whoever comes their way, tremendous capacity to put their mind at ease and all that. That kind of thing, when I read and studied and understood and practiced, then I knew that they had a real inner insights into the human nature in so many ways. I haven't even talked about those things, the gunas and all that. So they are best way of mindset understanding and all that. Some of them are so intricately difficult and understand, mainly because if you understand with this chattering mind, you will never be able to. You got to calm it down and also open it for questioning. Not by listening to somebody you will learn, but by listening to the ancient truths and then examining and investigating them by yourself. Okay, then it will be scientific, and it will be something that you will not believe or not follow somebody just like that, but you investigate with your own intelligence. I think doctors and nurses need that kind of inner psychological independence so that they can perform in the chosen field of theirs, which is very noble. But at the same time, you get to understand the system is important and the way we are going about it. A lot of doctors are leaving the field. Many are unhappily working and then burning out in the process, and all the things that they have put in there are not helping them. That's why I see the number going up, the doctors burning out. That's why I got the bandwagon on this. I said, okay, let us enhance the human being. Let us bring the awareness to the front and let us take control of our thought process and also know what is the real nurturance, both physically, mentally, psychologically, and philosophically and spiritually too. So there's a lot there, but then people have to spend time for that too. I think there's a situation when people are going to quit rather than going through all this because even if you change, when you go there, all these reactions coming at you, people complaining, people hating, people really feeling bad about themselves and other people. There's so much of addiction into alcoholism, drugs, and other things. So many doctors are committing suicide. You don't need this situation. So even now, I'm happy if I talk to somebody on this evening hour, and if somebody gets an insight and that helps them, that's good enough for me. And if somebody calls me and asks me about something, I'm very happy about that too. If they can call me and they can discuss their burnout situation, I will give them my viewpoint, and then they can take from that. And then I work with them continuously too. So there's so much we can do for the doctor. Otherwise, it is going to be a national emergency where we are going to be so short of doctors, nurses already, but doctors also. That will be a national emergency. They will be predicting. Okay. All right. Anybody else? Ram, you are here. Come up if you have any questions or something. Joyce, you also can come up, please.
So Dr. Rao, I actually think that we're already approaching a crisis because between 2021 and 2022, 117,000 physicians quit medicine, right?
Yeah.
And we started with a shortage before pandemic. The pandemic did accelerate a lot of that.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people continue to quit. And most of the physicians I know today are either, some have quit, some have gone part-time, or if they're practicing medicine, they figure out to practice it on their own terms, in a different way than traditional medicine per se.
Yeah.
And there are a couple things are going to happen because of that. One, we're not physicians with experiences are leaving, gone, right? I know I've been doing OB now for 14 years, and I'm transitioning. I will not do OB traditionally like I did previously. So even when I called the chief of OB at here, one of the institutions here in Texas, and he asked me, and we're talking about burnout and stuff like that. He said, you can't get more than 7 to 10 years out of an OB.
Yeah,
now.
That's true.
That's crisis. You know why? Because when I was training, I trained with physicians who had 20, 30, 40 years of experience.
Exactly.
And it was such a joy to learn with them and, learn so many different surgical techniques and way of doing things,
Yeah.
So when that's gone, and I'm like the most senior person there, that's a problem. I know physicians who are 3-4 years out of residency and they're ready to quit already.
Yeah.
They're like, they're finding other things to do. So, and even off the top of my head, I was talking to someone yesterday. I read up 10 people I know in my inner circle, 10 people, 10 OBs who are quitting, 10.
See, that's
so. Yeah, it's critical. It's crisis.
I had.
I'm not sure what the fix is.
I had one experience.
I'm not sure what the fix is.
10 years ago, I think.
So because I think Joyce wanted to say something.
Yeah. Hi, Joyce.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that, there's a great deal that what Dr. Rao is talking about can help. But there may be cases where the person really cannot do it. They just cannot handle the situation. And I was just going to mention, I'm no expert on this, but I've heard about a sort of this doctor, let's see his name's Dr. Eric Bricker, and he has this series of podcasts, and he does like a YouTube thing just about every weekday. And he was a hospital finance specialist who then became a doctor and was a practicing physician for a number of years, and then got involved in the startup world because he wants to improve medicine and patient care and so on. And now he's working part time, I guess, for this Nomi Health. And so he thinks that a lot of physicians may get a more satisfying, better experience doing an approach. I think they call it something like direct contracting. Anyway, I put it in the chat just in case anybody is interested in looking into that.
Yeah.
Anyway, because I know that another thing that I've heard from doctors is that some of them get kind of frustrated with certain wellness programs. I mean, they're probably, I'm sure they're not anywhere near as good as what Dr. Rao does, but they feel like the hospital administrators who maybe are, they have all these CEOs making a whole lot of money, and they want to get everything they can out of the doctors, so they give them a wellness program that really doesn't do anything much. Yeah. And they're trying to hopefully get the doctors to be able to just slave away and not quit. But anyway, that's just some perspectives. Anyway, thanks.
No, that is so true, Joyce, what you're saying. That is the existing condition, really. Because look at the money that we spend, tremendous amount of money. But look at the quality of life of the patients. Maybe when they are young, when they are doing some things by themselves, genetically, they inherited a good health and all that. But all these processes for inactivity, restlessness, all this explosion of information, not handling properly, all those things are really causing havoc with the outcomes of chronic diseases, especially. And that, trauma or acute medicine we do very well, and specialty care also we do somewhat well, especially for the disease. But if you take the human quality of life, how they are they energetic, are they really joyful, are they enjoying their relationships, and all that, if you take it, there's so much pathology going on. So in a sense, scientific findings are pretty good, but are they really carried out to the patient? That's a doubtful thing. And the other thing is, if you are really open mind, you want to see other health systems also, not to blindly believe them because they came from your mind or from your country, but really take it up in a scientific way and establish the validity of them and then give them. For example, Joyce also knows about this nutrition. There's so much known in the ancients than we know now, but studying that was a really revelation to me, so I am healthy in a way because of I don't take the medications, but I still have to work hard on my body and everything. That's fine, which I enjoy. Um, I'm healthy because I'm following the inner calmness from ancient wisdom, inner abundance from ancient wisdom, and outward, all the scientific things that we do, they're okay, but they don't touch the inner self. That's the problem. There's a psychiatry, psychology that's really based on thought process. That is something they are turning to the positive psychology, which I mentioned earlier. So it's a question of really waking up and say, we don't want to give our health to the health system, especially the doctors. First, you have to heal yourself. That's what I'm talking about. Develop the resilience. No matter what the system is, you will be able to work in a much more, that king I told you about, Maharaja. You will be king of your own self. Then you go and contribute to the world. That is the ancient wisdom final lesson is, first of all, turn inward and discover your inner divinity, and then go and help the world. That is the thing. So they always came from the strength that really, I told so many rooms this particular thing when I was going through the yogic folklore. And some of the gurus were also mentioning that. I want you to understand here we are pursuing happiness by getting something, by getting some knowledge or some status and all that. We think we will be happy, and we all said pursuit of happiness. But there they were contented and happy to begin with because of this inner exploration, and then they were producing prolific work, a tremendous amount of volumes of work. Poets did 30,000 poems, like that. So reversal of things. When I understood that, when I really saw that is the truth, and then really went after that to understanding that not only Indian cultures, other cultures. Rumi said, I got up and knocked the door, and then I realized I'm already in the room. So what does it mean? He wants to find something, some room that is there, but actually that room is already here. He's in that. So that kind of philosophies are there. Any religion, if you take it, or any ancient systems, you take it. So there's somebody on the wisdom want to come up. Let me bring them up. Hello,
Hey,
Yusuf.
Dr. Rao.
How are you?
How are you?
I am very good, yes, sir.
Good. I wrote a thought experiment on the back of a paper bag. I thought I would share it with you.
Okay.
Okay. Suppose that the life of this world is skydiving by way of metaphor.
Yeah.
By way of metaphor. And that there are two rings of skydivers.
Mm-hmm.
Both rings have knowledge that hitting the ground will be somewhat painful.
Yeah.
both rings have parachutes.
Yeah.
Okay, because you're familiar with skydiving, because even when you have a parachute,
Yeah,
it's still like kind of jumping off a short wall.
I know. Yeah.
When you hit the ground. Okay. So group number one has accepted the pain of touching the earth and is strictly busy on coordinating its survival. That is by focusing merely on opening the parachutes at the proper altitude.
Yeah.
The parachutes being both the sufficient and the necessary means of surviving the fall.
Yeah.
Group number two, meanwhile, is seeking to mitigate the pain of touching Earth beyond what the parachutes can do, seeking to mitigate the pain in all sorts of ways. But both groups are already in midair at the same equal rate of gravitational acceleration.
Yeah.
So which group will face the highest medical or funeral expenses collectively after the fall?
The one who is not in the present, thinking of the fall thing. The other one who is in present and thinking of what we should do now. That is the better one, that group.
So you're saying group number one is better off, or group number two is better off?
The one who is panicking, that's the one who is not better off.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would say that the ones that are focused on just enjoying skydiving and opening at the proper altitude, the parachutes, are the ones, if you focus on what is both necessary and sufficient, throughout your life, really, because the parachute is a metaphor for the adaptations, biological, spiritual, social, and behavioral that we are born with and develop.
That is what is explained in the yoga, where the movement of mind is not there, then your inner chemistry, cellular biochemical reactions is much better when you don't have that movement of thought in the terms of panic or fear or anything like that. But it's like a razor's edge. If you are walking on the razor's edge, you will be here and now. So if you take something life like that, then you will be able to be balanced within, and also that balance, that thought arrested, will not produce these chemical reactions which are not good for you, all the stress hormones. So that's why living in the moment, living in the present has a very high value for the healthy chemistry within.
Yeah, and it also makes pain itself, I think, seem less unjust.
Yeah.
I think expected pain is worse. The fear of pain, the imagination of pain, the expectation of pain,
Yeah.
These are worse than pain.
Exactly. Pain is inevitable, but your reaction is something optional. Like a suffering that comes from it is optional. We know about this. That's why when we train people for the pain medications, we train to increase the threshold for the pain rather than denying the existence of pain. Pain will be optional. It will be not optional. It is going to be definitely there. It's a fact. But then what you do with it, that brings on the suffering, and that is optional. Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. What you are saying exactly fits that, Yusuf.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I sent this thought experiment to a few people, and it didn't really strike much of a chord, but I'm glad it did with you.
No, that is true. What you are saying about the pain is optional, and you don't need to get into that as much in a reactive way. That's see, it's always after the fact. After the pain stimulus is there, and then you feel that how you react determines the threshold. If you have very high threshold, you react
it's
better.
interesting. I think besides on an individual level, I think that the social level, that the parachute is not just a symbol of individual adaptation. It's also a symbol of social adaptation.
Exactly. So that's why each person reacts differently, and some people, when they diagnose of cancer, they kind of collapse, where other people are very tempered in their response, and they take it as a matter of fact. Anyway, thank you for bringing that. That is also relevant to this doctors facing their own burnout, which we are talking about. Is also a lot of it is their inner reactions, their own ego, their own social adaptation. Like Yusuf was saying, all those things are important. All that put together, we call the thought-based. So if you understand thought-based systems and understand how the thought works, reshaping the thought is the yoga. From negativity, from reacting very quickly for other things to really being placid, balanced, and really understand what is going on, and then responding to it, not reacting to it, is a healthy thing. That is the inner resilience I'm talking about. That you could. Anyway,
Thank you, Dr. Rao.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Bye bye. So
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I was wondering, I was thinking the other day about, I think maybe perhaps I have a theory that one of the reasons exercise programs are good is because people start focusing on their performance and all, and they probably start noticing if they're eating certain things that making them feel lethargic and they can't exercise.
Yeah.
And so then they start being more careful about their diet and paying attention to what makes them feel worse. And I was just wondering if you find the same thing when it comes to the mindfulness and the meditation and all that people start to say, I don't do very well at that when I eat this food, so I'm going to change my diet too.
Yeah. There are three types of diets, Joyce, in that. There is energy that is producing more inertia, that is you don't respond to all that by heavy foods, like a rice. A lot of rice people eat in India. After the big meal of rice, they want to lie down because that heavy food demands more splanchnic blood supply, and some of the blood supply to the is not completely compromised, but less of to the brain. That's the mechanism that I explained. But basically, according to the quality of the food, you can have that. But you know what? Really aerobic exercise that is done when you reach the high target heart rate for you for some time, that produces endorphins, which is very good. There was a experiment done in a nearby high school to me. I'm living in Iowa, right? Next door is Illinois. Naperville is only 1 hour for me. There was a high school there. They actually made the kids walk on the treadmill before they can take the mathematics exam. The kids who have done the aerobic activity, their brains are so sharp and really able to do the math much better than the people who are not doing it. That was shown there. So it is there. You will become more focused and you will become more endorphin generator by doing this exercise. So you don't have to do only yoga physically, but that's for the young people and old people. You can do that, but you can do activity, simple dancing, moving, just walking. That's good enough if you are constant. But this cultural phenomena of sitting in the sofas and then keeping our mind going on, that's definitely frowned upon. Keep the body active and the mind quiet as much as possible. That is not happening. There's so much of information going on. People are happy just to talk about things, whether that matters to them or not. They just go through so many clubs, so many rooms, and they talk about things, but they never take care of themselves in that way. Yeah, it does affect Joyce. We will have more on that. I think I talked about this. Biological energies in the foods that are corresponding to the same energies that we have in our system. So if you understand like a solid, liquid, and gas, solid is like a inertia, and then liquid is like a river flowing energy, and that's what we are all in. And then really harnessing these both situations into something meaningful and something useful, that is sattvic, they said. That is the energy that we want to be in there.
Yeah, and I also like to, my focus is on finding out which foods affect you negatively, and it's not always the same for every person.
Yeah.
So, there can be sensitivity reactions where one particular food bothers you, whereas another food bothers somebody else, or it could be a combination of foods, and then it's a little difficult, which is
allergies.
What led to my company.
Yeah, a lot of allergies, Joyce. Is so true because I used to work with a lot of people with allergies, skin reactions, and all that, asthma and all that, right? When they came in, they might have used penicillin a long time ago, and they were okay. But now you give them penicillin, they will develop an allergy reaction too. Sometimes minor, sometimes major. But basically, you can have allergy for anything under the sun at any time of your age. But most of the time, once you are developing and all that, you may have less of that. But on the other hand, you may have more. So I used to give a lot of people EpiPen because they have bees and bees stinging them, and then they have this allergy reaction, right? Initially, they have no antibodies, so the reaction will be minimal. But after that, they develop more antibodies. Next time bee gets them, they have immense reaction. That's why they have to have the EpiPen so that they can give it themselves right away. So we don't want them to call for emergency. Suppose they are picnicking and they have this problem, immediately they take the EpiPen, they use it. So we give them 6 pens at a time, so that they will be stacked up, ready to go when they need. This is all known. But then ancient wisdom has is considers food also very, very important. The whole field of Ayurveda is based on food, right? And then they go into the nitty gritty of everything. I think you'll be fascinated with that, Joyce. I think you should take a look into that. And also new branch in the science, nutrigenomics, that is coming up.
Yeah, that's true. But it is interesting. But I would also say that there's an area of food sensitivity reactions which have been largely ignored. Once they decided that, it had to be IgE mechanisms, and then we're going to just ignore everyone else that has reactions that don't involve IgE mechanisms. And it goes back to a big controversy that occurred in the early 1900s between the narrow view and the broader view.
Peanut butter is a classic example of that. And then so many allergies are evolved also on people now. There is a theory because of the chemical indoctrination of our foods has changed the. That's why this new field of nutrigenomics or nutrigenetics kind of examines two areas. Foods are influencing your genes, and genes influencing your foods. So they're studying in two ways. It's all experimental right now, but I'm taking active interest in that because I was fascinated with Ayurveda, how they evolved so many foods that are, you see, they made foods that are high in anti-inflammation, and then they are still available. You know, the fermented for rice and all that for days without that getting spoiled. So that fascinated me. You know, there are so many things that they did that were really fascinating with the diet. One friend of mine in Hyderabad, he is also an informatician like me, but he's also knows Sanskrit very well. So he studied these things very well. He is doing some data collection. I'm waiting for that eagerly. That way, data comes, we can see much more about what those ancient systems worked how. Okay. Hi Ram, how are you?
Oh, thank you, Dr. Rao, for inviting me. And hello, nice seeing you. And Janet and Sharon, I think I saw you speaking in Doug Sullivan's rooms quite a bit. Hi, meeting you. The only thing I want to say, really, so much was going on, and it's all good. I'm not sure really I can add much, but one thing, maybe two things I will add is that, like you said, Dr. Rao, people have mixed feelings about technology. They have like a knee-jerk reaction, forgetting that since stethoscope, we benefited from technology so much. So depending upon the context with AI, we have to embrace more as a friend than as a foe. I mean, the reason we have cars is because they're better than us, and we shouldn't be anthropomorphic and try to race with the cars. Yeah. Just get on the car and enjoy it. And with brakes and all that, we have to harness, we have to use technology. It's the only way. We cannot go back to hunting and gathering and using punch cards or calculators. They're gone. So let's stop complaining about technology. Just use it as another tool, like you keep saying, Dr. Rao. Like you also said, I think many times that, sometimes we forget to go in.
Yeah.
We need to take a pause. I mean, a lot of people have burnout in their careers, especially doctors.
Yeah.
And I feel that because they have moral obligation to treat patients, they get caught in a loop, a vicious circle, where they don't take a pause and look at the bigger picture and become smarter in order to cure the patients. I feel that with device data and all that, I feel it's better to collect data and delegate responsibility of number crunching and data interpretation to Dr. Machine, who will be at our service, not compete with the Dr. Machine, but use it as an ally. That's all it is.
Yeah.
But we tend to compare unnecessarily. I don't know why, but it is the way we are, I guess. And also, the last point I want to make is, like Joyce and you keep saying, food was the medicine in the olden days, before the medicine. The only reason food it cannot be thought of as a medicine is because of the practices in medicine and insurance practices, etc. So the recommendation that you are making, Dr. Rao, and I think Joyce also is, go with the data.
Yeah.
Data collection, when you take additional supplements or special ingredients, a mix of food, what time of the day. This study was impossible 10, 20 years back because there's so much number crunching to be done.
Yeah.
But now, big data is a blessing. We have allowed the AI technologies to do studies with supplementals and everyday food to see what combination, what sequencing will work. I think we should embrace technology and use cloud and AI to do more studies on food. Ultimately, it will be fantastic if we can cure a lot of problems, diseases by simply using recommendations and not going off.
Yeah, Ram, about the technology, I repeated so many times, but people misunderstand because I'm talking about ancient wisdom. I'm against it. No, no way. I'm an informatician. I have a master's in biomedical informatics. The other thing is, when the EMR's revolution came in early 2000, I was one of the first to adopt it completely. Now I embrace the AI completely. What it is for me is it's a tool, but I use that very effectively. EMR, I had to spend time to learn, and also as I was teaching to other doctors and nurses, I had to learn more, right? Then I used that on my desktop. All 20 patients or something, they are all done by 9:30 because I have adopted all the templates when they were not there. I created templates and all that. So I was the first one to put it on my iPad to take it to the patient, see the 3D images. And I was the first to adopt the phone thing also. They were not there at the time, 2005, 6, or something like that. 2008, we got it into our hospital and I embraced it. I taught people to make it an ally. That is the one, because a lot of people are in a mindset that they don't want to accept this, but they suffered. But they came along later on. We created 24 hours different modalities. So that you can see a video online it, or it could be elbow support, or it could be on the paper if they want to read it. So we created a library that anybody can visit 365 days, and then they can learn that. So I absolutely see, but what I'm complaining about is the information overload is too much. Doctors are given too much information that's not relevant for them sometimes. That way, EMR helps us a lot. EMR helps us research better. EMR helps us to really transmit data from one place to other place. That was my main stimuli. I want democratization of the data. I want data not to be in silos of individual practices. It should be available all over the states. That was what my thing is. And also, Elizabeth writing producing at the time, several thousands of patients are dying because of the wrong prescriptions. So that's why I jumped on the bandwagon of the EMR and really got a lot of stress. And because my trainers are getting a lot of stress from the doctors who are not willing to adopt it, I had to teach them stress reduction program. That's when it started. This I call this stress management for excessive tension. All these girls are volunteers. They're trying to help the hospital to be super learners and teach other doctors. But doctors had the ego. They didn't want to learn from the nurses. So then I had to take care of my nurses. Otherwise, they were having a lot of problems, that kind of thing. So I do agree. But then just data, just information is not going to help your brain. So you got to use the tool, but protect yourself. That's what I'm bringing to the doctors is you be clever, you be intelligent about how you use the information so that it won't overwhelm you. That's what is happening here is they're stressed out because of the excessive information. They're stressed out because they are never out of that cyclical thought. Yoga taught me really how to be silent and then use all the data as a tool. That is where there's what is called scientificism. That is just making only science is the solution, and also really caught in that physical world, or just thought is also considered to be a physical thing in a way, because it's not natural when you are born, but you develop it and then you don't know how to use it. That's the problem. But once you have the ancient wisdom, you will know how to use it. Then you can use the thought for what it is, but not be victim of that thought. That's what I'm trying to say. Just to be calm 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes that's the simplest solution for this. You have to be truly calm though. Right, I think it's went to more than 45 minutes extra. Thanks, Dr. Sharon. I hope you got something out of this. And then if you have any thing you want to talk to me, just feel free, like a colleague, like a friend. I will be able to talk to you, no problem. Okay. Joyce, thanks. I know uh, I will close the room now because way beyond 6 to 7 was the time. And Okay. I will see you again tomorrow. Enjoy those two videos I put in on Satchitananda 1 and 2. Yesterday 1 and today 2. They both should be in my house there. Okay. And I'll see you tomorrow again. Thank you.